Hello and welcome back to another chapter of Home Finds Grian by Dragons Are Cool on AO3. Chapter 7 Cookies. Unfortunately for Grian, it seemed he and Impulse unintentionally had a very similar routine. He ran into the man more mornings than not after that. Though beyond the initial one-sided introduction and a few subsequent mornings or highs, the pair seemed equally content to their silent kitchen meetings. And Mumbo was glad to hear his plan was working, even if he was only meeting one other hermit in a not very talkative mood. He took it as progress, and between occasional visits to Scar's or adding to Jimmy's place, Grian was actually starting to get quite a bit of socialization. At least for him. Socialization and learning how to live again, to an extent. He missed out on a lot. It was one such outing to Jimmy's apartment they decided to try and teach him to bake cookies. It had been a battle all its own to convince Grian that chocolate chip was a bad idea, since he was more avian now. Even as a kid, he had a mild sensitivity to chocolate, being part avian as he was. They didn't want to know how sick it might make him now. Grian! I don't even have chocolate chips! I can't eat them either, Jimmy complained. Well, Mumble could have brought some, Grian grumbled petulantly. He knew he'd lost as soon as they pointed out to him that it probably wouldn't go well, but dropping it at that didn't really feel right. And as exasperated as they were, Jimmy and Mumbo seemed to enjoy the debate too, as they started making a batch of snickerdoodles instead. I don't have any either, mate. What? Grian just turned to his friend's confusion. Well, what's your excuse then? Mumbo just shrugged. You were the one with a sweet tooth. And he hasn't changed anything since I moved out either. Jimmy ratted him out. Hasn't started buying his chocolate. And I bet you hasn't stopped buying seed mix either. You don't know. I could have started buying it again by the time Grian. Mumbo huffed, voice far too high for that to be true. Yeah, but you didn't. Jimmy just smirked at him. Mumbo just sighs and grumbles. You don't have to be a bird to eat seeds. Grian laughed at his spoon of a friend, while Jimmy just kept poking at him. Thought you hated the way they got stuck in your teeth. That's what the toothpicks are for. Mumbo produced a small tube with a few toothpicks in it from his pocket. You still carry those around? Jimmy laughed. I thought you outgrew that. If you think getting used to fangs makes food magically stop getting stuck in them, then you don't know how teeth work, mate. Mumbo returned the tube to his pocket and crossed his arms. Wait, used to fangs? I thought you said you were always a vampire. Grian puzzled then, finally rejoining the conversation after enjoying himself a bit of their familiar back and forth. Well, yeah. Mumbo rubbed the back of his head. The fangs grow in later, though. I wish you could have heard him learning to talk when they grew in. Jimmy laughed. I was trying not to bite my tongue, Mumbo insisted. Again. Oh, Mumbo. Grian joined his cousin in the laughter. Then Jimmy, clearly remembering some past funny events, only proceeded to laugh harder. He doubled over, catching himself on the counter and inadvertently flipping the mixing bowl over himself. There was no longer much visible beyond the cloud of flowers settling over half the kitchen. Grian only laughed harder at Jimmy's predicament. Timmy, what have you done? He wiped at the tears forming at the corner of his eyes, missing how his friend and cousin stilled him. What did you call me? Grian sobered and looked back at him. He couldn't really make sense of Jimmy's expression. He winced when he realized the slip-up. "I'm sorry, Jimmy, I didn't—" "No, no, no!" Jimmy came towards him, waving his hands to stop him, and sending more flour flying everywhere. You used to call me that." He put his hands on Grian's shoulders, like, all of the time. Hope. That's what that face had been. Grian winced again, this time for an entirely different reason. "I don't remember, I'm sorry." He looked down, really not liking the turn this conversation had taken. Jimmy just huffed at him, fluffing up his feathers a bit in another cloud of flour. "I know you don't, silly." He lifted his hands away with a playful shove. "But you called me that again anyways, right? You're still acting like you, even if you don't remember everything. That's a good thing, right?" Grian looked to Mumbo then, like he always did when he was lost these days, which was often. Mumbo just smiled at him. "I think he's right," Mumbo assured. "Memories or not, there's just some parts of you can't lose, hey?" Grian smiled back at him, a little unsure of the whole situation. "I guess so." "It's all right, Grian." Mumbo came across the counter playfully, but carefully bumping into him as he went to take the mixing bowl. He carefully tipped out what remained of the flour back into a measuring cup, and made to replace what was now all over Jimmy. He laughed at the measly half cup and looked up at the taller avian. "You might need to go outside to shake that off, mate." His normally bright canary yellow wings were thoroughly dusted in flour, and it only seemed to spread as he tried to sweep it off himself. Yeah, just don't burn the place down," he grumbled, and grabbed his keys before stalking out of the room. Mumbo and Grian shared a look before Grian started giggling. Mumbo was quick and happy to join him. Even Jimmy, when he returned, joined in laughing at himself. His kitchen was a mess. He was a mess. But his two closest friends in the world were there with him for it. And as it turned out, with Jimmy banned from dry ingredients, teaching Grian to make cookies wasn't so bad. Mumbo was far less of a disaster in the kitchen than Jimmy was, having learned a bit from impulse over the past few years. And Grian, when focused on learning a new task, it seemed was far less likely to try and pull one over them. So soon enough, they had a tray full of cookies going into the oven with pretty good odds they come out actually looking like cookies. "So, Grian, you ready to stay with me for a few days?" Jimmy asked excitedly as he wiped down the counters, letting the flour fall to be swept up after. "What?" Grian looked from Jimmy to Mumbo in confusion. He caught Jimmy's face fall as Mumbo winced shamefully. "You didn't tell him yet?" "I was getting to it," Mumbo defended weakly. "What's going on?" "I have to leave town for a few days, mate. Work trip." "Why can't I just stay at your place?" Grian already knew the answer. "I'll be fine." Mumbo sadly shook his head. "You still need someone around, bud. I'm sorry." "You'll be fine," he insisted again. "I can pull myself out of it." "But you can't." Mumbo sighed. "I've tried letting you." "You have?" Grian was a bit surprised. He didn't remember any time he woke up to calm himself alone. "Are you sure it was long enough? It might take a minute." The defense felt weak, even as he said it. "I gave you a whole hour, mate. You just kept panicking." Mumbo set aside the broom he collected and pulled his friend into a hug. "I don't have to go for a few more days yet. I just thought you'd probably be more comfortable with Jimmy than with any of the other hermits yet." Grian nodded. "Sorry to spring on you like that, bud." Jimmy came up to pat him on the back. "I promise I can cook well enough to keep us from starving, though," he smiled, "despite what it looks like." Jimmy Grian just nodded. Logically, he knew he'd be fine with his cousin. He'd be safe, and Jimmy knew about his nightmares already, but he never had to deal with one. So, needless to say, he still wasn't really looking forward to this. And that is the end of Chapter 7.